Hello, my name is Lottie, aka Sneezy Ferret, and I'm irritated this morning the same as I am every other bloody morning. Mainly because I read the news when I get up, and I probably should stop doing that. So what's got under my skin this morning? Well, quite a few things, but let's start off with Liz Kendall, our tech secretary in the UK, who has made the following comments to MPs, that there's been a lot of misinformation and scaremongering spread about digital ID as the government tries to sell the policy to MPs and the public. Perhaps, Miss Kendall, the reason why the public has been spreading this misinformation is because you keep trying to sell us what I can only describe as magic beans. You keep making promises of policies that are apparently going to have a positive impact on our lives, and all they end up doing is, well, ruining them, or giving more government oversight when we just want to be left alone. Of that. So let's look into the digital ID, shall we? Let's see what it is that is this misinformational scaremongering. Because so far all I'm seeing is people saying, well, it's going to have more information on it than what we would like. So let's have a look on gov.uk to see what it is they're trying to sell us. So they have a page on there which is the digital ID scheme. It says a new digital ID scheme will make it easier for people across the UK to use vital government services. The rollout will, in time, make it easier to apply for government and private sector services, such as helping renters to quickly prove their identity to landlords, improving access to welfare and other benefits, and making it easier for parents to apply for free childcare. It goes on to say what data will be held, and I have a massive problem with this. It says that it will include name, date of birth, information on nationality or residency status, and a photo as the basis for biometric security. And although it does add this consultation will consider if any additional information like address would be helpful to include. Well, they're going to have to include other information. Because how on earth would your name, date of birth, and nationality alone be enough for you to be able to access things such as welfare, childcare? Starmer has mentioned potholes. Well, you'd need to have your address there, or at least give them an idea about where you live to be able to register that. So far I'm not saying that it could possibly just be those things. And if we are talking things like welfare, then we'll also be talking about bank details, won't we? Because where else are you going to pay it? It's not like in the past where you got sent a little check in the post and you went to cash it in your post office. You are going to need to have a lot more information on this digital ID rather than just name, date of birth, nationality, and photo. Let's get back to the original article that irritated me this morning. Well, it starts off by telling us the BBC was forced to apologise this month after its comedy show, Have I Got News For You, repeated the false claim that a company owned by Ewan Blair, son of former Prime Minister Tony Blair, had been awarded a government contract to develop digital ID. This was untrue, and the BBC has since edited the episode to remove the claim after it was spotted by Politics Home. In fact, the government has since confirmed that that development of the digital ID scheme will be done in-house. That does not make me feel any better. If you have a look at some of the videos that I've made just in the past 2 weeks, what you'll see is a lot about the constant cyber attacks and security breaches that our government departments have had to deal with. If they're trying to tell us that actually, no, this will be really secure, I'd like to know what this magical new type of security that they haven't put in place in such confidential sectors such as Ministry of Defence, why haven't they been put in place already? So moving on, speaking in the House of Commons, Kendall said, there's a lot of misinformation out there about this. This isn't about surveillance and it's not about a police state. We'll see. Kendall was responding to independent MP Adnan Hussein's claim that the new digital ID system would create an infrastructure for surveillance and control. Elsewhere in the debate, she said there's a lot of misinformation about this out there about what it does and doesn't do. Yes, she keeps saying that, but not giving us any information as to what it does and doesn't do. Hence why we just looked at that article on gov.uk, which doesn't seem like it could be accurate. More than 2.8 million people have signed a petition against the plans to introduce digital ID cards, claiming the scheme would be a step towards mass surveillance and digital control. Today was the first opportunities for MPs to debate the introduction of such a scheme, as it was announced by Starmer during the recent parliamentary recess, when he was in India for the trade deal. Kendall told the Commons that in the many other countries where this has been used, it has been about making the government and the state more effective and efficient and giving you greater control over your data. Well, it doesn't give you greater control over your data when you're being forced, and I do mean forced, to have this digital ID in the first place. Since the scheme was announced, the government has made the case for the introduction of digital ID cards, partly by pointing to other countries like Estonia and India, where it says the move has been successful. Yeah, it didn't start off successful though, did it? Both schemes were subject to multiple cyber attacks, which caused major breaches of security. You have to only look at India, that again I mentioned in a previous video, where you can currently purchase the data and details of individual Indian citizens for only £5.82 on different WhatsApp groups. Kendall said tonight that one of the advantages of introducing digital ID after other countries is that the UK can learn from their experience when things have gone wrong, how they improved their security, and that's what we intend to do. I would like to know again what this magical new type of security is and why we don't already have it in very critical existing departments, as I already mentioned. In response to questions about whether constituents' data will be safe and if she could give assurances that digital ID would never be used to track their use of services, Kendall said, "There is some scaremongering over this. When you look across other countries and what they're doing, it really has made government fit around people rather than make people fit around government and its different services." Well, that's not true. Once again, if you're forcing this on people, then it's not government fitting around people, is it? They're saying this will not be mandatory, but if it's going to be, you will need this to have the right to work in the UK, then it is mandatory, isn't it? It's mandatory via the back door. Again, she also didn't answer the question there, did she? Because she was asked whether the data would be safe and whether she could give assurances that digital ID would never be used to track services. And she didn't say no. And that's half of the problem with all this. It seems like MPs are not actually explaining all this to the public. Asked by Labour MP for South Derbyshire, Samantha Niblett, what assurances could be given to ensure her constituents did not feel like the scheme was being done to them, Kendall said, "I believe that if you can show people that government is changing, it is working around them, meeting their needs and concerns, that is one of the ways in which we build trust, and that's what we're determined to do. That is not the way to build trust. You do not build trust with someone by forcing them to do something that they do not want to do. That's coercion." And very few people in the UK actually have any faith or trust in the Labour Party. This is not going to make them feel any better about it. It sure as hell doesn't make me feel any better. Kendall was repeatedly asked by MPs to set out how much the introduction of a digital ID scheme would cost, but could not give a concrete answer, telling the Chamber that the eventual cost of this will depend on the design and build, which is what we're consulting on. I would just like to mention that this comes just after this morning, Rachel Reeves saying that she's going to have to raise taxes on people to sort out the 30 billion shortfall. So yeah, we can also afford this scheme. Chi Onwara, the chair of the Science, Innovation and Technology Committee, also raised concerns about the scheme in the Commons, telling Kendall that while the government is absolutely right to champion access to a consistent, trusted digital ID, making the scheme mandatory for everyone seeking work is poking a stick in the eye of all those with security, privacy and or government capacity concerns. And therein lies most of our problem. A lot of us have raised concerns in regards to security and everything else, and we're being told that all of that concern is just misinformation and scaremongering. So, cursed recording session where I've broken half my equipment. So on the gov.uk, there's one last thing I'd like to talk about, which is under frequently asked questions. Will you sell my data? It says no. User control is at the heart of our proposals. The government will only provide third parties with access to your personal data when you instigate this sharing, or it is otherwise permitted under UK data protection laws. So no, we'd never do that. We can't do that at the moment. That's literally what it says. No, we can't do it at the moment. But leaves it open to speculation. I'm not comforted by the way you've written that. You've written that in literally such a way that you could interpret it to mean quite a few things. And in fact, it does look like you're leaving a way there for you to be able to do this in the future. All you'd have to do is change a UK data protection law. So, yeah, not great. So, as for the misinformation and the speculation and everything else that you might not like at the moment, Labour Party, it's because of you that there has been some in the first place. And as for you saying this isn't about surveillance, this is not a police state, well, it kind of is, isn't it? See, you prove what you are about by your actions. And so far, all I've seen from the Labour Party is, well, not willing to change police laws, which mean that police end up surveilling people's free speech online more so than violent actions in our streets. We're seeing people arrested for having said things that you don't particularly like online, even when they're not illegal, hence why they don't always end up going to prison. You're policing speech online. You're policing what is left of our, well, what's very little left of our freedom of speech. Yeah, that helps me believe that I'm not living in a police state. Thank you for that. Again, you prove it by your actions. So, I'm going to leave this video here. Me and this little fella here are going to go and do something fun, aren't we? Probably have a nap. Sound good? Well, I got to edit the video first. That's going to be fun. Mwah. I love you all. This is love from me and Scout, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye. I love you. What do you do with you?